Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. As you have seen from the title and the thumbnail, we'll be having a discussion about what Digimon seem to be good for Death Week and what Digimon are actually good for this Death Week too. So without further ado, let's begin with our topic of today's video. So our first Digimon is Digimon SDQ. Its main skill hits one enemy but reduces the crit rate of all allies by 30 of all enemies, sorry, by 30% for 3 turns. His sub hits all enemies and decreases their defense by 30% for 2 turns. His passive decrease all enemies tech damage resistance by 30%. He's a good Digimon to support tech Deft Digimon with his passive, but you can't depend on him to pretty much one-shot anything. So he's better off as a support. So yeah, he can also work with Calm Digimon, by the way. Our second Digimon is Lopmon SDQ. His main skill hits one enemy, increase crit rate of all Deft allies by 30% for 2 turns. His sub hits all enemies and increase the defense of all allies by 30%. His passive increase the tech of Deft allies by 50%. His main and sub are pretty much the opposite of Digimon. Instead of removing something from the enemy, it just increases something for his allies. And his passive is actually perfect for tech Deft Digimon. But also, just like Digimon, he's better off as support, not as a hitter. Our third Digimon is Puppetmon. His main hits 4 enemies and has a 45% chance of giving sleep to the 4 enemy targets for 2 turns and decrease their block rate by 10%, also for 2 turns. His sub hits one enemy and decrease their defense by 30% for 2 turns. His passive decrease all enemies counter rate by 20% forever. He is an okay Digimon, but his reduced abilities are garbage. Wouldn't really recommend him. There are actually better options out there. So yeah, our first Digimon is Platinum Yumimon. His main hits 3 enemies, decrease their counter rate by 10% for 2 turns, and decrease their pinpoint rate by 10% for 2 turns. His sub hits 1 enemy, and decrease all enemies tech by 30% for 2 turns. His passive increase the block rate of all Deft allies by 20%. Ah, yeah. The poop god himself. He's pretty much a meme Digimon. Like, he isn't really a strong Digimon, but his passive is good. Not great, but it's okay. But there are better passive than his actually. But if he's your only choice, then yeah, I guess it's okay to use him for his passive only. So yeah, our fifth Digimon is Raidmon. His main hits 2 enemies and increases all allies pinpoint rate by 10% and increase all allies tech by 10%. His sub hits all enemies and has a 40% chance to give blind to all enemies targets. His passive reduces the chance of getting the blind effect of all for all allies for 2 turns. Ah, yeah. The Digimons that I keep getting a lot of lately. He just doesn't want to leave me alone. I have him at skill level 4 already. Like, why, Bandai? Seriously, why? Anyways, back to the topic. He is an okay Digimon, but not great actually. He has also good stats, but this isn't something that will pretty much finish the enemies. In fact, if you can hit that blind, then congrats. So yeah, but I'm saying if, since it's 40% chance. Our sixth Digimon is Piedmon. His main hits 2 enemies, has a 55% chance of giving blind to the 2 targeted enemies, and it increases his own tech by 30%. His sub hits 3 enemies and has a 50% chance of giving blind to the 3 enemy targets. His passive increases his own pinpoint rate. Yeah, like that's it. Yeah, his passive increases his own pinpoint rate. Like, yeah, I actually thought there was something else, but yeah. But yeah, he's pretty much the strongest member of the Dark Masters and pretty much the leader, I think. He's a good hitter, in my opinion. His 30% tech boost is not a joke and you shouldn't laugh at it. His skill deals a good amount of damage as well, and his stats are also good, so if you can give him at least 2 gold plugins, then you're good to go. So yeah, you're pretty much gonna have a sweet time with him, I guarantee you. But that is if you do not have one of the top tier Digimon like Creepymon, Lilithmon, Gaiomon, Valkyrmon, stuff like that. So yeah, like he wouldn't really be that much if you have any of the Digimon. Our seventh Digimon is Mirage Gaugamon. Ah, yeah, I'm getting some Saber's flashbacks here. His main hits one enemy and decrease his own defense and block rate by 40%. His sub hits three enemies and decrease the three targeted enemies crit rate by 20%. His passive reduces the chance of getting burn effect to all allies. Yeah. Anyway, he is pretty much a Clash Digimon. He's also one of the OG Digimon, so if you remember him, then hey man, what's up? But pretty much, yeah, he's just a stronger version of the Brave Air Vidromon that we got free from the register rewards when the game was released. So, yeah, Digimon number 8 is Lutzmon. I mean, sorry, I pronounced that wrong. Lotusmon. Yeah. Her main hits 4 enemies, increase all allies' defense by 30%, and has a 45% chance of giving paralyze to the 4 enemies. Her sub hits 2 enemies and it increases the power and tech of all Deft allies by 40%. Her Deft gives immunity, not chance reducing, total immunity. There is a difference between the two of them. To shock, paralyze, freeze, stun, and sleep for 1 turn only. To all Deft allies. She's a very good support Digimon for Deft allies, but you shouldn't depend on her that much in case of nuking a Digimon or anything like that, or maybe even hit like hit strong. So yeah, that's what it says in my script. Sorry guys, like seriously, this script's so long. Just expect from her to boost your Leafmon or Daemon or whatever you use as a hitter. Digimon number 9 is Gaiamon. His main hits 2 enemies, and in case of a critical hit, it will deal 3 times the normal damage. Also, there is a note to Gaiamon. He is pretty much the only Digimon that we do have in global right now that actually deals 3 times the normal damage in case of a critical hit. Omegamon deals 2.5 damage. So, yeah. So yeah, and it lowers the 2 enemies' tech resistance by 20%. His sub hits 2 enemies and boosts his own critical rate by 40% and gives immunity, again not chance reducing, total immunity to shock, paralyze, freeze, stun, and sleep for 1 turn to all Deft allies. He's a really good Digimon. He has good stats and even good skills. However, you need to give him crit, and whatever you do, do not, and I am saying that with capital words, do not depend on his sub to boost his crit. You are pretty much risking your own Gaiamon by doing that. The enemy might be able to kill your Gaiamon and pretty much you will just lose that turn for a risky play. So yeah, don't depend on his sub. And by the way, pretty much he is gonna be useless if you don't have him with crit. So yeah, he will not do that much damage without any critical hits. So yeah. Our 10th Digimon is Barbamon. His main hits all enemies, has a 40% chance to give error to all the targeted enemies for 2 turns, and it reduces all the enemies' power damage resistance by 20% chance. His sub hits 2 enemies and he increases his own block rate by 30% and increases his own power by 30%. His passive gives himself immunity to shock, paralyze, sleep, stun, and freeze, poison, and skill up for 1 turn. He's pretty much that type of Digimon that isn't a team player at all, aka the Vikemon type, so I wouldn't recommend him. He has good stats, but his skill doesn't do that much damage, and pretty much he only reduces 20% power resistance to the enemy. Like, that's the only thing that's useful for his team. Note, I'm actually not including the error in that because pretty much not everyone is lucky to hit that error. So yeah. Digimon number 11 is Daemon or Creepamon or Gaemon. I just triggered all of the OG players right now. That's what you get. Anyways, back to the main point. His main hits 2 enemies and it makes him restore 500%. 500. Sorry. I know. Sorry about that. 500 HP for every action he does during one turn only and has a 55% chance to give burn to the two targeted enemy targets. His sub has a 100% chance to make all the enemies target him, and it increases his own counter rate by 70%. His passive reduce chance, not immunity, for the third time, okay? The chance of getting poison, burn, and error effects that target all Deft allies, and it also makes him get 15% attack increase for every action he does, except for the shout. It's stackable till 75%. He's not a bad Digimon. He's really good, actually, but sadly, he's just overshadowed by other Digimon like Littlemon and stuff. But if he's your only Digimon, like if you got shafted for Littlemon, then I guess you could use him. So if you do have him, then I say you could use him for that extra chance to protect your Littlemon, by the way. So, yeah, he is not a bad Digimon, actually. So, yeah, that's just another opinion from me. So, yeah, he's okay, he's good and everything. So yeah. um Digimon number 12 is Black Metal Garurumon. His main skill, his 4 enemies decrease their power by 25% and increase his own defense by 20%. His sub hits one enemy only and gives a 25% power damage resistance to all allies. His passive decreases all enemies crit rate by 30%. He's pretty much a little bit of a counter to Gaiumon. Not a good counter to him, but his passive can come in handy for those who have Gaiumon but don't have good crit plugins on him. So he can help a little bit, but I don't really see that much of use for him than that passive. Number 13 is Littlemon. Ah, yeah. Yes. Finally, the main point of this video. Her main skill hits 2 enemies and it recovers 50% of the damage to her own HP. It decreases the 2 targeted enemies' defense and attack by 20%, and it increases her own tech and defense by 40%. And it also ignores evasion damage limiters, example Omegamon's garbage, and shield effects, example Ganapon's toy. Her sub hits 3 enemies and has a 40% chance to skill lock them. Her passive reduces the chance of getting shock, paralyzed, freeze, stun, and sleep to all allies for one turn. I just offended all of the Omegamon clan and the Gallopmon clan as well. Get wrecked. So, yeah. Pretty much the Deft nuker we have right now. She's legit your only chance to survive against Omegamon fanboys and Omegamon fangirls. That still to this day, for no reason at all, still want to rock Omegamon. Even if they have good Digimon for the personality weeks, they still want to rock Omegamon. Or they still even want to rock Omegamon solo, like only Omegamon. Nothing else in the team, just Omegamon. Committing to the meme, that's only. Like, yeah, I don't know why. It's like Omegamon is that magnificent being in front of them. Like, I'll never understand these people. Like, yeah, I'll never understand them. So, yeah, but to sound serious, she is a really good Digimon, but in order to make her deal a lot of damage and to make her more deadly, use the bunnies, or you could use Lotsmon. He is really good for Littlemon and also the bunnies. So overall, Littlemon is the best Digimon in the game right now. Now let's go to Digimon number 14, which is Justimon. His main hits 2 enemies and gives 30% boost to power damage, resistance, and block rate to all Deft allies. His sub hits 2 enemies and decrease all the Deft allies defense by 30%. His passive also increases the max HP of all Deft allies by 15%. He is a really good team Digimon, but sadly he's overshadowed by the bunnies and by Lotsmon. His boosts aren't that high, and his passive pretty much only give like 750 HP. So if he's your only Deft support Digimon, then I guess you could use him. But if you have stuff like the bunnies or Lotsmon, then do not put him in the team. Digimon number 15 is Valkyrimon. His main skill hits 2 enemies, decrease their power damage resistance by 20%. and boosts his own power by 25%, stackable till 75%. His sub hits 2 enemies, increase his own power by 25%, also stackable until 75%. His passive reduces the chance of getting poison, burn, and error effects that target Deft allies, and also increase the crit rate of all Deft allies by 30%. Pretty much a very good nuker. That's right. That he only hits 2 Digimon, but his passive gives 30% crit rate, which means if you use this guy with Gaimon or the latest Mondaiden, you legit just made a double nuke combo. So yeah, or you could do it a triple nuke combo like Valkyrimon, Gaimon, Leasmon, like that's also possible. Uh, Digimon number 16 is Noble Pumpkinmon. His main hits 2 enemies, increase the attack of all Deft allies, or sorry, of all allies by 20%, increase all allies power damage resistance by 30%. His sub hits 3 enemies and has a 40% chance of giving sleep to them. His passive gives 20% block to all allies. He was a really good Digimon actually when he got released, but now he's just overshadowed by other support Digimon. Our last Digimon, aka Digimon number 17, is Buildimon SDQ. Yes, the last dev Digimon that got released. Hits 3 enemies, decrease their count rate by 20%, has a 50% chance to give error to the 3 targeted enemies. His sub hits all enemies and decrease all the enemies' target block rate by 20%. His sub decrease all the enemies' target defense by 20% and also reduce the chance of getting shock, paralyzed, freeze, and stun, and sleep effects for himself only. He's pretty much a more tanky version of Minervamon, but for Deft. So you could use him if you want. He isn't that bad actually, but he isn't something like Glismon or Valkyrimon or even Gaiamon, so don't expect anything godlike from him anyways. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it for now. I know I've been talking for a lot, like I see that 17-minute mark already. So yeah, I'm sorry for talking a lot, but yeah, getting information for these Digimon was actually hard, like it took a lot of time, but yeah, thanks to Rico for these reviews, and also saying thanks to other Discord members for helping me out with some reviews, like example, the Justimon and the Volkirimon. I got some help for these, so yeah. And I will also be doing a part 2 to this when of course the next Deft week comes, but I would not be doing the same Digimon that I made the reviews for right now in this video. I will be doing reviews for the upcoming Deft Digimon that will get released in today's week, or pretty much I think in next time. So yeah, who knows what Digimon will get released next. So yeah, that's it for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you later, and hopefully this was helpful to you.